Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So, I'm sure in your time on the internet, you've seen a number of memes about what happens when the group chat leaks. Usually people getting thrown in jail or at least processed by police. And it's all a joke and a meme, but apparently this is actually happening right now. Earlier in this week, a young Republican group chat had messages dating back several months was leaked to the public, published by an agency called Politico, and featured some choice messages to say the least. Some of this stuff might be things that you've come to expect from the modern GOP, or at least from younger people. You had the run of the mill bigotry and racism, referring to black Americans as watermelon people, talking about going to the zoo if you wanted to see a monkey play with a ball. Messages praising or outright saying they love Hitler were never met with condemnation in these group chats. And finally, even to the more extremist side of talking about putting their political enemies in gas chambers or sexually assaulting them. As far as the order they plan to do that in, well, I'm sure that's up to your imagination. And ever since these group chats got leaked, it's been the usual response you've come to expect from the GOP at this time. It's brushing it off as locker room talk or banter or just stuff between kids, and how college kids shouldn't have their life ruined by joke messages in a group chat. In fact, our sitting vice president, Jance Dance Revolution, was on the Charlie Kirk show that he somehow hosts now for a dead man, saying these exact sorts of statements on that program. And I do understand, for most of you, the phrase Young Republicans Group might make you think this has to do with high school or college kids, but something you need to understand is that the Young Republican National Federation, the group that comprises these chapters of young Republican organizations across the country, spans the ages of 18 to 40 years old. In fact, the majority of messages that were highlighted in this specific article came from people who are between the ages of 24 and 35 years old. These are adults. Even for people who still go off of the 25 is when your frontal cortex is done cooking, these are fully cooked adults at that. I refuse to accept the notion that this is locker room talk or banter or just jokes between friends. Because if you believe that this is jokes between friends, then you think it's okay to joke about marching your political opponents into gas chambers to murder them. You think it's okay to make jokes about raping your political opponents. And this isn't some call about no edgy humor or you can't make certain jokes about certain things, because I don't agree with that. I think that everything has a chance to be joked about, and there's ways to bring humor even out of the darkest of subject matter. But the fact of the matter is, these aren't jokes for a lot of these people. Many young Republicans and younger right-wing people have these aspirations of repealing the 19th Amendment or turning back civil rights acts. There's one partisan group in the United States that wants to overturn no-fault divorces, and it's not Democrats. There's one partisan group in the United States that keeps pushing for child marriage laws to not be overturned, and it's not the Democrats. And that isn't to say you don't have people who are to the left of the modern Republican movement who don't make edgy jokes, who don't have these calls for violence in their group chats, or don't say similar sorts of messages. In fact, I saw a number of right-wing operatives or commentators making posts, their whole screenshots of sheets of people who were making light of Charlie Kirk's assassination. But again, the fact of the matter here is, you have people in these group chats with these young Republicans who are actual members of Trump's administration. You have people who hold a real political power or aspirations to hold political power, suggesting that you do ultra-violence against your political opponents. You're going to have to forgive me for taking light of a 200 follower shitposting account on Twitter when you compare that to, say, I don't know, the leader of the Virginia Young Republicans, Sam Douglas, being involved in these group chats. At the end of the day, though, I don't think anything here is going to happen to this, because this isn't a disqualifier for Republicans. Nazi praise and bigotry is not something that will get you kicked out of the Republican Party. Getting caught will, but the believing it, the dog whistling, the palling around with the words, and, the sort of tapping on your nose messaging, that's completely fine. They want that stuff in the party so they can signal to the more outrageous extremist parts of our country. After all, there's been two major Republican figures running for contested state seats who have been found sharing, posting, or otherwise making accounts on Nazi fetish and bigot fetish porn sites. The Nazi stuff is what they're after. It's just don't get caught doing it and you'll be fine. As it stands, the only major ramifications that have come from this is the Kansas Young Republicans Twitter account went private, more than likely just because they were getting lambasted as hard as they were for these sorts of leaks, not just by people who were outraged at the jokes they were making, but by more right-leaning political commentators who value loyalty and towing the party line more than morals and decency and having a set standard that you follow. The only standard that they really care about is, can you keep up with the party marching? How low can you bend over for dear leader? But I guess until the next inevitable Young Republican group chat leak where we see what news slurs they've come up with, y'all try to have a good day.